then put that together. What you'll see is on these teeth here, also, if I just show you the gasket off, there's teeth on there which locate this part of the gearbox, and that's what we need to be lining up. And you know when it's located because this piece, now if I lay it flat, it won't turn. It's located on those teeth. You need to then just push down on that plastic part, get it down to the bottom. So we've pushed that to the bottom. What we can do at this stage is just drop in a couple of these bolts to stop it spinning around, and just locates it. Yep. Then we get our gear, the last one. Again, we just have to turn it to make sure everything's lining up, and then again we just need to turn so it locates on that other gear. It's a bit awkward, but he's sliding down and now he's gone down. And obviously it can't go down any further. You know the width of the gear, it's quite wide, so that's down inside of it. It's not going to go down any further. I'll put that to one side at the moment, because what I always do is I put the centre of the winch together first, and then I can work from either end, motor or gearbox. So we grab our two end housings. Now, if you remember, we've got a problem here with the bearing seized up, so we're going to have to renew that before we go any further. What you've got to be careful on these is this is aluminium casting, and by hitting this out without supporting this piece, you're going to have a problem. You're going to break that casting. So this needs supporting. Not everyone has got a press to press this out, but they're not that tight and you can tap them out, but you must support this piece here. What you can use is a large socket, and just to stick it on the socket and then tap the bearing out, and make sure that the new bearing will pass through, knock the other one out. The first thing we do is just get it moving on a solid surface. So we give that a tap, and that's moving fine. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, there's a gap there now. So then we put the socket on there, just supporting that. There, and now bearing gone. Just take the new bearing, so it's nice and clean. And this time we tap this in, but we tap it around on the outside edge. You can actually use the old bearing for this job if need be, and just tap that in, make sure it's just going in nice and straight. If it's coming up one side, you tap that side, just keep tapping it in. And turn it up just to make sure it's gone right in tight, which that one has. Catch the socket, nice and loose, ready to be put back together again. At this stage we've got to put the motor coupler in. Bearing in mind what I said earlier, was these lobes have got to be 90 degrees away from the two on the brake. So we look inside there, find out where they are. They're basically there, so I need to put my lobes in at that angle. I'll pop it in, and with my fingers, and if you can see this, I'm turning that, and there's loads of slop. That tells me that it's exactly in the right place. Go on there. And with this winch, I'm leaving that one out because that's where the bracket goes to hold the contactor on, or the control pack wire. So it's nice and free, nice and smooth, and so I'm happy with that. So now we come to putting the gearbox back on, and the best way to do this is grab two bolts, and insert like so. I'll lie it on its side and then pop your gasket on like so. That'll just help keep the gasket in place when you're putting this together. Now you have to be careful, because the gearbox is in 2 segments, that it doesn't come to pieces. So you're going to hold it like so and gradually feed that in through the gears, and then you'll feel it come up against that little gear at the back. And so we just have to turn this until it locates. And that's why it's important to get your brake shaft a bit further out than it should be, because then it will push it back in after locating in that gear. And then we just keep sliding this forward now as it's in that gear, and we turn the drum, because if I draw this back a bit, the drum locates on this gear here. So we push that forward, bearing in mind our marks, we keep the marks lined up, and then we turn the drum, just give this gearbox a bit of a wiggle, and there it's located. So keep the marks lined up, and there you feel it going against those teeth that are in the end housing. So just snug these up. Okay, put those ringer bolts in now, so that's all nice and tight and secure. Next thing to go in is our free spool lever. This piece here locates with the ring that I showed you earlier. So we try and put it in, and it won't locate because the gear is in that way a bit too far. So just need to get something just to move it across a little bit, and now hopefully that piece will locate in, which it does. And we should be able to just turn that around quite freely. And now that's turning around. Bring that around, and now it's locked. So that is operating nicely. So we can put this screw back in. Okay, one thing to bear in mind, motors do vary. Some motors have got a washer like this on the end, which has to go back on. That stops the armature moving around from side to side. So this one, when I took it off, has got a washer, so again it goes back in. And then we just hold the motor and pop it in. It is actually worth putting just a little bit of grease on there, not too much because it will just start running the motor. Just a bit of grease on that shaft, stop it seizing up on that bearing. Now what you can see is the holes here either side can actually line up on the way in. As you go in, and we've got to pop this in free spool. Locates. So now we've got the motor on, we can take these off just to receive the control pack. So now we've got the control pack. We've got our wires that we marked before, and we can get them caught on. And do these again. Now, same principle applies here. We must not get those studs twisting. So we hold the wire the other side this time to stop it going around that way, and we just snug those up. If you feel the thing's going to turn, then you're probably turning it too hard and you've tightened it up enough. Just put some grease on here. It just stops the rust. And it does help then also to pop the boots back on, especially if the older they get, the harder they get. This will help them slide over a bit. And the boot goes on. We can locate our control pack back on top, turn it round. So we've got this bolt here to go in on this bracket. Right, with this one now in place, we're at the stage where we can test it. We need to pop our earth on first. So remembering the wire that feeds the solenoid pack. Pop that back up and put our positive back on. Snug it up. And then we connect our positive. Now obviously, with yourselves, more than likely you need to connect this to the car. You can put it into your bumper and connect up your wires just to do that initial test. And then we'll test it again. Remember to keep tools, keep wires, keep everything free. Just hold on to the top. It's a good idea because the winch will move a little bit. And then we test it. Like so. Obviously quite noisy, but we're sat on a metal bench, so that doesn't matter to me because it's just resonating through the bench. And we'll try the other way. And all is well.